just having an idea is not enough. You've got to have the team, like we discussed. You've got to have many things in place to pitch to the investor. You've got to convince them without grabbing them by the throat. You've got to convince them that they've got to invest in your company. Right? You can't handcuff them, or the company can't handcuff them. You've got to tell them about yourself, your expertise, your experiences, your team. Pitching to lenders and investors. I think we've touched on this before. Lenders, need to know whether you can make your loan repayments, pay your interest off. Investors want to share of your business and are more interested in long-term goals. Make sure you have an accurate idea of your business, what your business is worth, right? So if somebody says, what's your business worth today? The reason they're asking that is because you need to value your business and say to the investor, okay, I'm going to if you give me 1 crore, I'll give you 25% of my company. So that's why you need to know what your value of your business is. Now, valuing your business is not easy, right? Sometimes it's really up to the investor to tell you what the value of your business is. But you should have an idea so you can argue and negotiate. In the US, generally speaking, when you start a business, you've got some kind of a beta model or prototype working. A business is valued at around $1 million. So if you want 100,000, you've got to give 10%. Right? That's just a rule of thumb. And I'm sure there's similar rules of thumbs in India. I'm afraid I don't know what they are, but I will try to find that out. And lastly, again, just coming back to that video and 50 time practice, don't struggle to explain what you're telling the investor. If you struggle, you've lost. Right? You've lost. Be clear. Kind of obvious. You've got to be clear. You've got to be comfortable about what you're saying. And actually, that's it. Oh, sorry. So there's some top tips. Make sure you have a clear and well-rehearsed presentation and ensure that you look presentable and behave professionally. Be clear about your target market, your competition, and your business's competitive edge. Make sure you know your numbers, your margins, and your production costs. Right? The last one is kind of important because the investor, in the exec summary that you gave, the 2-pager, they may not have read it. Right? If they haven't read it, they're going to ask you these questions. They're going to ask you these questions even if they read it, because they want to know that you understand and remember. You understand your business, your cost of goods sold, what are the margins, what's your gross profit. You've got to just memorize it. So that's another time when your co-founder comes in handy because you can ask each other questions. These are just the basics. Again, remember all the time that you're pitching to investors. You simply want to know how you will help them make money. How that will translate into the use of and fair return on the invested capital. Again, be brief and to the point. So, there's not the end, there's the beginning. Right? That's it. Thanks. Oh yes, sorry. Any questions?
At what stage of from the pitch to the presentation would you actually get to know whether the investor is an investor who is looking for a good return over a period of years or looking at a good exit option? So there are two types.
So between which points? What are the 2 points?
What is the time as a person who is looking to raise investment would I get to know whether the person is more interested in a long-term, good return over every year, or he's looking at a good valuation of the company as the next exit option? Because these are two different.
Yeah. So you're talking about a startup company? Yeah. So I think the exit strategy normally at the startup stage is just a couple of lines. And it says, I want to exit because I think somebody's going to buy my business. Or I want to go IPO. Right? But at that early stage, you can't really tell what's going to happen to the company. So I would think that the investor is going to be looking for, just a comfort level that yes, one of those two things is going to happen, or one of those three things, whatever the options are, is going to happen within about 3 to 5 years. Right? They don't want to be in it for 10 years. They know they can't get a return in 2 years. So generally speaking, they think of 3 to 5 years.
Projections for a startup. Normally investors or clients look for the past data or the past background or past work you've done. How we can work out in the business plan this thing?
So in the business plan, there is a section which has where you place your bio and your achievements, your educational background. It's normally about a paragraph, and then you should also have separately a full CV ready in case they're requested. But put in the business plan. Also, actually have in that executive summary too. Right. So I've seen exec summaries where there's like 3 people, and they're one's from Stanford, one's from Harvard, and one's from IIT, and they have luck in getting funding. I don't know why, but they do.
Well, could you elaborate on the break-even analysis? How do we include that in a financial model?
Break-even analysis?
Yes, sir.
So I think I haven't really seen too many startup presentations which show break-even analysis. Investors sort of understand that you're not going to break even immediately, which is why you're looking for money. If you break even or become profitable in let's say 24 months or 30 months, then I think that's acceptable.
The question related to this is when do you think is the right time to go for asking for funds from an angel investor, whether it is before, if it is like a virtual kind of venture, it's like IT related venture, so whether we should go for asking for money from an angel investor after we get a break even, or before we get a break even, what brings the most of the probability?
I think if you become break even, it means you're going to start making money, right?
Yeah. So start making money, but not enough for the future expansion plans 3 years, 5 years down the line.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So I think you can go both times. I mean, you can go initially before you break even. Once you break even, you're really an existing or a running concern. And then you can apply for what I call expansion capital. Right? So you can do it in both stages. Initially, you should have some kind of a prototype in place. You should have a couple of customers. So typically, let me just step back. Typically, what people do is they do a startup. They borrow on credit cards, or they borrow from their friends and family, and they get about let's say 50 lakhs together. They start the business. They have a prototype. They have customers, and they prove the model. Then they go to angel investors, and they try to give away as little equity as possible for as little money that they need. Right? And then let's say you get to the break-even stage, then you go for the bigger money. So the reason you do it in 3 stages is because your valuation is increasing at each of those 3 stages. And as your valuation increases, you're giving away less of your company for more investment.
So,
let me come back to you. Sorry.
Hi. So, trends today, like what other markets apart from IT are the investors, would be interested to invest upon and look into, especially India?
Well, I hope it's renewable energy, but I'm not sure.
Definitely.
I'm sorry, I don't really know much about India yet. I only got here a month ago.
Well, let's talk about then a global.
Yeah, so in the US people are starting to reinvest. They've been dry for about 2.5 years, and health, it's like genetics, not biology, you know what I mean? Biotechnology, thank you. Biotech, genetic research is, I think, pretty hot, but things really haven't, started boiling yet. There's a lot of money still sitting on the sidelines, and I haven't really heard any clear direction as that they're investing in any particular industry at the moment. Perhaps you can tell me what's happening in India.
I will. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll sit after this. Thank you.
Sir, mostly whatever you have said is concerned for IT sector. But what about sustainable businesses which have the community as a third stakeholder, as well as specifically talking of the healthcare sector in India? If we have to develop a model which is sustainable, taking into example the emergency care units and emergency ICE in case of emergency calling numbers, right? So how would that be? That requires a lot of investment to be precise. But how do we attract investors for that? Because I don't think any returns are there in that.
There are no returns?
I don't see any. As far as my experience in the field had been, there were no returns and no salaries even.
Sorry?
There were no returns and no salaries.
Oh.
Yeah.
So if I understand the question, you're saying how do you attract investment into India from overseas?
No, it's about for community-driven programs. Non-profits.
Non-profit
Yeah.
It's CSR sort of.
See, microfinance miserably failed in India.
Yeah.
SKS microfinance, one of the best models to work upon, but it just miserably failed. In a democracy, I'm shocked. But I don't know how to work about it.
I think for not-for-profits, the funding would necessarily not come from an investor. Right? You don't need to look at other avenues of getting funded.